we go again. Another day to stage. Again, we start our truck every day in our truck clean, blankets folded, and ready to receive a load. Today we're going into destaging, so get your mind in the process of getting your bins together and getting everything set for destage. Let's go. Okay, so you just arrived at your destage. You want to set your truck up to where it's in a good location and you're able to get in and out of the location pretty smoothly. This particular location, we can enter through the front door or we could come through the garage. So we have both open so that we have smooth flow. When you take your ramp out, you want to have a man standing on this side, pulling it out, and then a man standing here at the front to set you up so that you don't scratch the ground when you place your ramp on the ground at the location. Now, depending on whomever is loading the truck, you will determine how you want to load it. But in this particular case, I like to start with the couches or the chairs, and then bring those items out, start packing it out. And it should look something like this. We don't totally wrap everything, but anything that's touching the wall, especially if it's a hard surface, we want to make sure we have it covered. These are sofas here, so I have those fully covered. I have the tables there. But the idea when you're packing is that you want to create a wall of furniture, like I've created this wall here. And then you'll start your second wall from here. And you just try to build that wall out with your furniture so that you have one straight line. But like I've done in this situation, where my second line is, I have a gap here now that I need to fill in, and maybe possibly even a gap here that I could fill in with another chair if I have one. If not, then I can go ahead and close that off or find a way to fill that gap with the furniture that you have or the items that you have. But it does take a little bit of pre-planning and practice when loading. But the main idea is that you want to protect the furniture from rubbing against the wall. You want to protect the furniture if it's laying on the ground and if it's rubbing up against each other. So like here, even though this is touching, I have blankets on both items to protect the items from rubbing against each other. And as you place those items, I find it a good practice that feet are against the wall if you're going to stand something up, and that they're not necessarily touching against something else. And if they are, that you have a cover either on this and on the item, or at the very least on the item. So if the item should touch up against it, the pad is there to protect it. Now the differences in pads varies because this is a thinner pad. Where you have the thicker pads, you may want to use the thicker pads to kind of cover your items to prevent accidents like this from happening, where you get a poke because the way you packed it, you didn't put anything to protect this here. So something poked in there and tore that out. So we want to try to prevent that. Like you see here, I don't want my mattresses rubbing up against here, so I need to put a cover on that side to protect my mattresses as we go down the road. In your destaging, the bed frames are wrapped together with all the pieces. If you have screws, put the screws in the holes that they go in. Put the nut and the bolt on the screw, or nut and bolt on the nut and bolt together with the frame. Wrap those items together as one, because that's one frame, one item. When you're breaking it down, put them together, and we wrap them at the top and at the bottom. If you have maybe a king size, you want to wrap top, bottom, top, and the middle, just to make sure that you can keep all the pieces of that frame together. Now, let's go inside when you're doing a D-stage, as I said, you can come in, you can start by taking out your furniture first, like your small chairs. You can take out your couches, your beds, and with your rugs, we flip the rugs over because we want the rugs to be showing on the outside of what the design and the fabric is. And the larger ones, we wrap at the bottom, middle, and top. And take note of the size of that rug because you're gonna have to write the size of that rug on both ends of the plastic to display what size that rug is. The stagers, like we told you before, they'll have their baskets, their bins, and they'll be packing the bins so that you'll be able to place those on the truck, and they'll let you know when those bins are completed and ready to go. You and your helper can then continue moving around. We'll wrap the couch here, covering from bottom to middle. And then you want to move from room to room, clearing out each room of all the items, checking to make sure that you have nothing left behind, and making sure that the items that you are removing do belong to us. So the dressers, we don't necessarily wrap. We would take this dresser outside to the truck, drape a pad over top of it, and call it good depending on where we place that in the truck. So you're gonna come into beds like this, king size beds. We wanna break those beds down. Like I said, you're gonna wrap up the frame. You take the mattress out, you don't have to wrap the mattress, but we wanna ensure that we do not drag the mattress on the ground or drag it against the walls as we're moving it in or out of the property, to ensure that we can protect the ends and keep them looking new or fresh. And again, with this rug, we'll flip this rug over, check the size of that rug, and write it on the wrap. This looks like a smaller rug, so we're probably only going to do 2 wraps on each end of the rug. So after you've completed most of those items and removed them out the room, things like these nails that we use to place on the wall to hang our art, if you have time, you can remove them. If not, the stager will remove those items. As you're exiting out, you want to make sure that you just backfill and make sure you check and see that we got all our items. Like we need to get this here, get our art off the wall. Mostly we are staging homes that have nothing inside them. So we want to make sure once we leave the location that we've taken everything outside, except things like a mirror on the wall. We're going to take this because it's over a vanity, and typically that vanity and mirror are a pair and will stay together. But something like the shower curtain and the shower rod usually is ours that we've installed. And you'll get to know better what items belong to us as you deal with the inventory from day to day. So just keep that in mind and you'll be fine as you build and learn more knowledge about what we're doing. And as you can see with the art, what we don't want to do is put the canvas against the wall. We want to have that canvas away from the wall and the backs on the wall and the canvas facing out. And then we go canvas to canvas. We never want to go canvas to back because that back has a potential of scratching the front of the canvas. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to that detail. Something like this, the size would make a difference. So we want to keep it off the canvas and just move it to the side, something like that, till we're ready to load those on. Now your art, typically when you're loading, either destaging or staging, you want to kind of keep to the last because we put it on the back of the truck with that cardboard that you see there. And we'll go over that process here shortly about how we'll put the art on the truck according to the size. All right, so we at the end of the truck. We got our art pack. We got all our containers on. I put my rug on the bottom to kind of lock everything in. my strap on top to lock in the tighter stuff. But again, you want to build your walls out until you start getting to your smaller stuff. Build your wall down here, and I use my softer items because I know if these fall, they won't break, they'll be okay. Put my heavier pieces on the bottom to kind of lock everything in. And then you want to be careful with your bends because the stagers have packed them, but they haven't packed them so much so that you can drop them on the ground and it'll be okay. So you want to make sure that your bend is in a good spot. It won't slide around. And I like to lock it in one more time so everything kind of stays in place as we go down the road. So I have my wall all the way out, built all the way out down to here, and I know I'm straight. These won't slide around too much or move back and forth. If I felt really uncomfortable, I could run a strap along here, along the bottom to tie it in, but it's not usually necessary. Mostly you want to make sure that your items on the top don't get tilted over to fall down. You want to make sure you have a strap on those on the top and at least have it locked in tight when you're packing it so it doesn't move back and forth. So the destagers, when you and your helper have walked through the back, the end of the house, walk back into the house to check to make sure nothing is left behind and that you have everything outside of the house for destage. You packed everything, you secured, you got your tool bags, all your bungees, your ladders. You take one last look and make sure everything's good. Close down your door, and again, the same process about putting out your ramp you want to do with picking up your ramp. One man on the front here, one man on the back. You lift up on the back, he takes it off, you slide it in, boom, close up the door, and we're out of here. Okay, so now we're back at a destaging, back from a destaging, and we're bringing over some end tables, or better known as nightstands. We want to bring them over to this area here, over about a yard. This is the second aisle. Come down this aisle, and we want to place those end tables here on this second row on top. And again, we're matching the end table with the other end table, and you stack those on top. Now the difference between these end tables and these end tables, or the coffee tables, is that we're not putting anything in between here to cover it. We're just placing that on top gently to ensure that we're not scratching the top, or like this pair here, we're placing them back to back. Again, we want to keep the pairs together because of inventory and because of placement, to ensure that they're where they're supposed to be when we go looking for them. So if we brought this one over, we want to find a matching one, put that back on top gently, placing it down on its pair and going back to the truck to get more. Okay, so you just come back from a destage and you're taking off your bends first as you come off, because they're normally at the end of the truck as you have finished loading on the furniture. So this is the location here where you would place your bins in front of. Like you see here, they're empty. These are bins that have came back from a destage. So we place these over here so that they can be emptied, put back on the racks like you see, and underneath the table. And then the bubble wrap will be put back in here, but typically that will be done by the stagers. Us as the drivers and the helpers, we want to make sure that the items are in a location where the stagers can get to them. Like this here, you want to be aware of what you have in the bins as you bringing them back, because if there's an item such as this glass, you don't want to stack anything on top like you see here when you're taking it off, because you know, same rules apply. If it's open, we don't want to really put anything on top of it unless we are sure, like here, we just have soft items in here, so we know that there's nothing in here that can break, so we can place something on top. Even if it's light, we don't want to put anything on top of the glass, because there's a possibility that that glass may be broken. You may fall, trip, bump into someone and that glass is broken, and now we have an incident. So we just want to be aware when we're doing the destage and what is going to be inside, or we completed a staging and we're taking those bins out, what's still inside of that bin, and know that we can or cannot put something on top of those bins for a possibility of them being shattered or something inside being broken. So
all right, so we're coming back from the staging and we have an end table. So we come over to this area here and we're walking, and we can start in this aisle depending on the type of end table you have, but we want to find the matching pair. Like you see this pair here, this is the same as this pair. So we want to keep the pairs together. So if we have this stool in hand coming back from a destage, we want to find the same matching stool. Oh, that looks the same legs, same design, same color. Guess what we do with it? Boom, put it right back on top. Magnifique, mucho bueno. Now you have an instance where maybe it's only single piece, then fine. Find an open space for that single piece, place that single piece in a safe location where it will be stable and secure there so that we can find it for our inventory. Same situation, maybe this one does not have a match, so we place this on top because one, it fits, and two, it is in a safe, flat location, and we believe that would be okay. Now, same thing, coming back from the destage, and you have a table, a coffee table. This is the same area where you found the end tables, but on the lower level, we want to put our coffee tables down here and place them either underneath here or on the outside. But before we move to the outside, we want to ensure that all our spaces underneath have been filled, both bottom and tops. If the coffee table will fit standing up or flipped over, we want to ensure that if we have to flip something over and put it on top, that we have some sort of cover on the coffee table that is below, so that those two surfaces touching together will not rub, but only rub against the cover or protection. Could be cardboard that we use to protect the bottom of the top of the coffee table that's on the bottom. Now, even with a soft item like this, we still want to make sure that we put down protection, because now we're protecting the soft side of this coffee table from the hard side of the bottom table to ensure that there's no tears, rips, or even staining from the wood of that coffee table that is below. Here, not so much matching with the pairs, more so we just want to make sure that we have filled up the space on the bottom all the way down to the end of the rack. You can enter from this side or the opposite side over there, but like here we have a space that we can then fill in with this table here if we wanted to ensure that all our spaces are filled before we begin to put tables on the outside here. But let's say our table is too tall to go underneath, then of course we want to start putting it on the outside here.
okay, so we just came back from a staging and we have some dining stools. These aren't chairs, even though they look like chairs, but you can tell because they're a little bit higher. And in these particular chairs, we actually have a pair of stools and a pair of chairs. So we want to pay attention to the heights of the chairs when we bring them in to ensure that we put them in the proper location. Now behind me, you'll see we have some stools here, but on this rack here, where our end tables are, our end dressers, we also have stools on here as well. Now we want to be cautious of where we're putting the stools, because just like all the other pieces, we have to match that stool, that piece, with its other counterparts. So especially with the chairs and the stools, we may have up to 8 stools in a pair. So this particular pair of stools, we have 2, 4, 5 here, and then on the rack above here, we have 3 more. So what's that math? 5 plus 3 is, you got it. So we want to make sure that we're kind of keeping an eye on how many pairs or how many that we've taken out of the house, so that we know we possibly may have so many more left at the warehouse that we can match that to, so we know the location where that goes, so that we're keeping up with the inventory. Once again, I can't stress that more, that we need to put the items that go with the same pairs, so that we know how many we have, because when we need to use them, or when we're doing inventory, we need to know how many we have to use. If we don't have enough to use for that staging, then we cannot do it. So this particular pairs, like I said, go up top. So what we would do is, there are 3 pair of these step ladders here. We want to go to the location where those step ladders are. We want to bring that step ladder over to the location where we're going to put our stools. And you move these ladders by pressing down on the lever here on the bottom. That lifts up the cart so that it can roll on the wheels, and roll it. Just that simple. Shouldn't have to fight with it too much to get it where you need it to go. And these are the stools that we're putting away here, and their location is right here. So for this particular exercise, these 2 stools here are right next to the other 4 stools that we have up there that match. So what we would have to do is then move the stools, because that's the same pair, just behind the other, to make room for the others that we're bringing in. So as you bring them in, I find it best to bring all that set of stools over to the location where you want to put them. Then you and your helper can one by one hand the chairs to the person that's on the ladder, to have them pass it up to you, so that the person on the ladder can then put the stool on top. Now, if you're too short and you're not able to reach the area, you can stand on the racks, but we want to be extra careful standing on the racks. They can hold the weight, but on any height, you want to be careful walking and watching where you're placing items, because they may fall or tip. So we don't want to put too much pressure on things as we're up there, because you may push this whole row down, and we don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that we're being cautious as we're up there, moving around, ensuring that we have solid footing, and that we are being cautious of fall protection. And again, you have a buddy, so use that buddy to hand you chairs or to hold something as you get good footing before you reach to grab the chair to put it on top. Now, depending on the type of chair, would determine how you would place that chair on top. For instance, with the benches, this is still a stool here, so we just put that flat on top of this one. But let's say it is an odd shape, like these here, then we just place those back to back to back. But like in our case, we have stools with the longer feet. So we could sit this on the bottom here if we thought that was safer. But most of the time we follow what's already in place, because we've already determined that that was the safest way to put the chair up. So we want to place it on top there. But if you feel like that's unsafe, definitely move with the caution and the mindset that you want to be as safe as possible. Now, something like this area here, where the chairs can't go on top, they're just too tall, we just stack those next to each other to ensure that they're up there out of the way in a safe spot, but they're grouped together. So we're able to see, okay, we have 4 of these larger chairs here that we can use for staging if we need to. And we know where to find them all in one spot. And another safety tip, when you're up on the ladders, you want to make sure that we kind of stay inside the square. And if we're going down on the ladder, we want to make sure that we have at least 3 points of contact. So 1 hand on the rail, 2 feet on the ground. That's a good way of handling things. And we're paying attention as I'm going down or you are going down the ladder. Best way to go down is with your back towards the exit, and when you get to the bottom, then turning around. So let me do that correctly. So I would go up facing forward, get up to my location, and I would ask my helper, could you hand me the bench there? They would hand me the bench, boom, and I would place it on the rack where it goes. And again, until we have all the pairs. Once we have all the pairs up, I want to then 3 points of contact, turn around, watch our placement of our feet, step down one by one so that we can see where we're going. And if we should fall, maybe we can go forward and not backwards because we're holding on hands and 2 feet. Alrighty, let's keep it going. Okay, so we're coming back from a destage and we have chairs like this with the high backs. Or we maybe have a piece like this, a footstool that we are carrying back, not on our heads because we don't want to have grease on it. We want to carry it maybe in front like this, where not too much of the sweat from our work is getting onto the piece. And we want to find the row that has the same item, again, matching if it is a pair. If there's not a pair, then we want to put it up on the same location where the others similar pieces are. So this is a bench. I would take this off the truck, carry it over to the location where I found either the matching pair or the location where the items go. Place that on top. These are softer items, so we don't necessarily need anything to cover this bench here that's already here, but we can just place that softer item on there and that'll be just fine. Now with our chairs, again, we want to keep pairs together with the pair. These are the highest of the chairs that we have, but when I say highest, I mean the back of the chair is very high. We have smaller ones like this piece here that we would then place underneath the rack here where the other chairs are located. Again, we're keeping the pairs together, so if you bring this piece over after you came off the truck, you want to first maybe set it down and find out where the other pair is in the rack. If you don't see it in the rack, then you want to find an empty location underneath if there's one available, and you're sure that you're able to fit 2 pairs underneath if you have 2 pairs, or if you have the 1 pair, and slide that 1 pair into the empty spot to ensure that it's out of the way and safe from harm. If you have the higher back chairs like this one here, of course, we're not going to be able to slide this underneath and keep it with the same pair. Not at this particular time of this filming, but we want to then stack them like we have them here. And we would leave those on the outside. As you see the others here on this row here. Again, keeping it to the side where it is in the aisle, next to the other chairs in this aisle. I wouldn't stack it on the other side here where we have the tables, because that's not the side where we keep the chairs. We always want to keep a clean aisle. If we have things in the aisle where at least one thing is to one side, the other items to the other side, and we're still able to get up and down with furniture or up and down to select pieces to get them for staging. So just keep that in mind when you're placing the items. First, we want to look to see if there's an empty location for that piece. Oh, look, there's an empty location. I have one piece here that doesn't have a pair. I want to take this and I want to slide that or lift up to get it into that location where that chair is. Being cautious not to rub too much on the other furniture. And I want to slide that in that empty spot. Fill that empty spot first before I just place it on the outside and leave it there. I want to first look for the empty spot, then place that piece of furniture in that spot. Again, being cautious when we're sliding, because some pieces, maybe the leg is a little loose, like you see that here. This leg is loose, so we want to be cautious when we're moving this chair that we don't slide it too much to further damage that leg before we're able to tighten it. Again, we're coming from a D-stage and we are placing our rugs back from taking them all out of the house. Or maybe you've come over here to get a rug to be loaded on the truck. So let's say you're loading on the truck. If you're loading the truck and you're looking for the rugs that they want to take to the staging, you want to look for the sticker of the day. So today's sticker is green. We see our tape here. Well, I'm calling it a sticker, but it's tape. It's green. It's marked office. So we know that we're taking this rug for the office. We see another green. This is for the pool. Again, we want to read, because reading is fundamental. We want to make sure that we're reading the stickers, especially if it's marked with an abbreviation like this one here, DR, that's dining room. So we would grab those 3 rugs, take them over to the truck or over to the staging area so that we're getting those ready for our next stage. And again, the lighter rugs, we want to keep maybe off the ground, or the furrier ones like this, we want to keep off the ground when we're here in the warehouse, because there's dirt on the floor. So you take the clean rug like that, put it on the floor. Guess what? That dirt is now marked this rug, because this rug is rolled from the outside, not the bottom. So the bottom of the rug is on the inside here, and this is the outside, which will be shown to the customer. We don't want this dirty with dirt from the warehouse, because we rubbed it on the ground, we dropped it on the ground. So we want to be careful with our lighter rugs, especially that we keep them off the ground and not rubbing on the ground as we're transporting them. Now, if you're doing a D-stage and you come back, these stickers should be removed. The longer rugs, like we talked about before, go on the longer rack. So have a look here. Tell me if you can see the difference between this rack here, which is a lot longer than this rack here. So, I mean, using our common sense, we want to try to put the smaller rugs on the smaller rack here, and your larger rugs on your larger rack here. So the stickers should be removed, because that staging is done, and we're destaging, and we brought it back to the warehouse, and we're putting this stuff away as we emptied the truck. We want to put it on the proper rack and make sure that the longer rugs have saran wrap or plastic wrap on 1, 2, 3. So the longer rugs get 3 one in the middle, two at tops and ends. The smaller rugs only have 2 wraps. So if you have a rug that's like this, either no wrap or 1 wrap, you've done it incorrectly. You want to see your rugs, smaller rugs like this, with 2 plastic wrap, shrink wrap, with 2 shrink wrap on the top and the bottom, or either ends, whichever way you want to say it. Furthermore, your rug should be marked with the appropriate size of that rug. Let's see if I can show an example here. So an example of that will look like this. I've rolled this rug up at the location, and I want my tag to be on the furthest end away from where I began the roll, so that if I need to check this roll, I can check the roll by just simply lifting up the tag and checking the tag here to see the size of this rug, which is here next to size. So this is an 8x10 rug. So we would wrap this rug in how many wraps should we put on here? 3. I knew you knew it. You're smart. We're going to put 3 wraps, 1 on the end, 1 in the middle, and 1 in the beginning. I know I messed that up. But on the ends, we want to write the size, which is 8x10, and a Sharpie marker on the plastic, not on the rug, please. On the plastic, we want to mark 8x10, so that's 8xx10 on that rug, both ends, so that when we put that away and we're looking for a size, but not necessarily a color, we're able to easily identify the size that we want to put in that location. So again, we want to make sure if we're putting away that our rugs are wrapped properly and marked properly on either end with the size of that rug, and not put away like this with just 1 shrink wrap. This won't hold this rug properly, and it'll flap, be all out, and may even come apart. So we want to make sure that we have it together neatly when we place it in the truck, so that when it comes off, we're able to put it on the rack and not have to touch it a second time. Okie dokie. Okay, we've just come back from a destage and we're putting away the art. So we are walking over towards the rug rack and where the art is located. Now, unless you're instructed, you can put the art here for your destaging. You're coming and bringing it off the truck. You want to put it on these carpet rugs here. Now, as you can see, the larger pieces are standing up straight. They are placed with the backs against the rack, not the face, facing with the face of the art out. This is to prevent scratching. And then once you place other pieces on top of that, you want to try to be careful as well to ensure that you don't have damage like you see here on the art as we're transporting. So in a destage, you want to make sure that it's on the edge of the carpet and that it's protected against the back and not scratching against the furniture or the other art that's on top, and it's straight so that it doesn't fall down on itself and damage it that way. If you are out of space there, there's more space here to put the art on the rugs as you come down the aisle. Now, if you are loading for a destage, you're getting ready to go out to a staging, here is where you will find the art for that stage. So in our example, our staging tag or tape for today is green. So we're looking for the art to go on the truck, which will go on lastly at the end of the truck. we find our cart that has our art, and we want to grab all these pieces here that we see marked that are on the outside, along with the items that are on the cart, and push and take those items over to our truck or staging location before we put it on the truck, so we can ensure that we have everything that we need when we leave to get to the staging. So this is where you will find it, and as you can see, this particular cart has the wooden sides on it to keep the art somewhat in place as you transport it from this location here over to the loading dock. So you don't have to push fast and hard, but just get some muscle. Be careful as you move through the warehouse to ensure that you don't scratch the back of the art as it's traveling along the way to the truck. Okay, so we come back from the destaging, and we have the mattress and the box springs. So we have two types of mattresses and one type of box springs. So what that means is that you can have the box springs like this, or the king box springs like that. So you can have the queen, which is in the front here, or you can have the king box springs. We also keep the queen mattresses and the king mattresses in the same location. But like you saw, that box spring there should have a pair that matches that same box spring next to it, so that when we go to select that box spring for a king size bed, both box springs are together and they are the same size. When you mix and match those box springs, you may get different sizes. So when we're picking for loading for a stage, we want to make sure that we have the same box spring that goes with the same pair for that king bed. Most of the times you will see the sticker on one box spring for a king bed, but we want to make sure that we find the matching pair for that box spring for the king bed. Now, the detail there is, are you doing a king or are you doing a twin? If you're doing a twin bed for a staging, they only need one box spring for that twin bed. But if they're doing a king size, then you need two twin box springs to match the mattress size that you're going to be placing on that bed. And you will find both of those box springs typically in this location, either king or queen here. Now I said there's two. The second type of bed that you may be requested to get is here in the back. So we want to follow around, come around down this aisle here with the chairs, and you have the sofas, chairs, come around the corner and continue walking down. And here is where you will find our second type of mattresses. This is a bed and a bag. And you know our tag for today is what? Green. This is the bed that they want to select for this staging. This is the bed that they want to take down. So when getting these beds, because there are multiple beds here, we want to ensure that we grab the bed that the stager has marked that they want to take, because maybe that the other beds may not be functional, or maybe they selected this one for a particular color or size. So we want to be ensure that we're getting the one that is marked with the tag. If we're taking it back, if we're returning from a destaging, then we want to put that mattress back in the same location here on this shelf. And we actually load them from the other side where the yard is here. And as you can see, we have a few on the floor already. And be cautious, because you may have to check to ensure that that mattress is good and working. So most of the ones that are not marked are working, but if it is broken, we want to ensure that we're not just grabbing a broken one, and we're paying attention, being detail oriented, and making sure that we got the right bed for the right staging, or if we're destaging, that we're putting that bed back in the proper area. All right, I'm ready. You ready? Well, let's do it. We got the big boys in the house. The sofas. Yes, the sofas. You have come to that point in the truck where you're destaging or you're staging, and you need to either take off or put on the sofa that you want to get. Now, depending on the situation, depending on your abilities, you want to either do a team lift or a lift with a dolly. I'll show you the one on the dolly. I don't really want to explain it too much, but you want to ensure that you have something that metal is not touching cloth. You want to have a piece of carpet, a blanket, to ensure that metal is not touching cloth, because guess what? Metal is stronger than cloth, and it will tear, rip, or abrase the surface of the couch. So doing a single man carry and you scoop that couch with the hand truck and you rub or don't have anything on that metal to protect the fabric, then you're gonna have an incident. We want to make sure that we're carrying our stuff the right way, and if we need help, we ask for the help. So as you can see here, the way that we store our sofas when they come back to the warehouse, they're standing up on either end. Now, you'll notice in the same area that we have these foam cushions laying around. And you'll notice the particular shape of that foam cushion. Typically, you want this flat part of the foam cushion to be on the ground. The rounded part here, you want to be up in the air. Why, Joshua? Why do we do it that way? Because if we have a couch or a sofa, or a love seat that is unlevel, we then take one of these foams or maybe two of these foam rolls together, and we place them on the ground underneath the unlevel part of the couch, typically the arm of the chair, of the sofa or love seat, under the arm of the sofa or love seat, to stabilize it so that this couch will stand erect. It'll stand up straight. You will not lean back towards the other couches, maybe tip the whole row, or maybe even puncture a hole in the couch that's behind it. So once we bring that sofa or love seat off the truck over to the sofa area on the carpet. Now you all see this carpet here that's on the ground. We want to make sure that it's on the carpet, and then we want to make sure that it's stabilized, so that if I rock it like this, I can let it go and be confident that it will not fall back and hit the other chairs behind it, or will not fall forward and hit me as I walk away. So we want to make sure that we're being conscious when we're bringing this over. If you need to set it down on the carpet for a second so that you can grab one of these foam rollers, have your partner watch it as you go get the roller, the foam foam pad, get the foam pad and place it where you want to place your sofa or love seat, and then put your sofa or love seat on top of that foam to stabilize it and make sure that it'll stay on the carpet and protect it from falling. Secondly, we want to ensure that we're following the aisle setup here. As you can see, there's a space right here. At this time of this filming, is not marked with tape on the end, but it should be marked with tape on the end, indicating that that is a walkway for the stagers and yourself to get down, so that you're able to get to that piece. Okay, so we want to go into how we would prepare the couches when we're doing a destage or when we need to wrap them to protect them and put them on the truck. First thing, you want to make sure that you have ample enough saran wrap. I got a good roll, and you got to start it. Position on the couch that you can start. Typically, myself, I like to go from the bottom foot by either tying it off, or you could either come in and tuck it in the cushion here and begin wrapping, but you'll see as you pull around that may come loose. So you want to find a location that's going to be secure that can withstand you pulling on it. So like I said, I like to start at the bottom, so I get me an ample amount of plastic, ball that into a line, take that line and wrap it around the bottom of the couch, tie a knot on the foot of the couch so that it doesn't come loose. Then you want to take your plastic and begin walking around, covering the bottom half of the sofa, almost underneath of the sofa. Follow that around the back, again covering the bottom, and just focus on the bottom right now. Get a good wrap underneath. You see my saran wrap, it comes all the way around. I almost come underneath the couch. And then I pull tight on my corners and I begin overlapping the layer that I just made. Following that around. Again, coming tight on my corners, almost pushing it around the corner to make sure I wrap tight, overlapping the layer that I did prior. Again, wrapping the corners. It's okay, you want that to fold right over the top as you continue up. Again, covering the layer that you did previously. Follow that around, staying tight on your corners. Again, I wrap, almost pushing it over where I want it to go on the couch. Now here's the trick. When you start getting to your top, you gotta get that corner. So you come around that corner. Depending on the size of your couch, you're going to have to think ahead or think on the fly of how you want to cover this top corner. So myself, I like to just continue overlapping. Then I may come to this corner here. What I'll do, I'll take my roll, I twist it. Sometimes it gets caught up, but that's okay. Just catch it. Pat your plastic down, keep it held tight. Get a little bit of slack. Come right back around, back up to the top. Come on my corner right here. I wrap my saran wrap on that corner to hold it. Then I want to bring it over top. And I want to get right across these cushions right here to lock this in. Again, I'm coming on the next corner here, around there. Then I twist again. And I come up above and I cross over, catching that side. Now what I just did with that move, I lock this plastic in. It can't move on this part here. I just come back around, and on the back, guess what? Twisting again. Because I want to catch this other side here that I left open when I came across. And you continue that twisting process so you get it wrapped all the way around on your corners, going back and forth tight. So I'm just going to keep twisting, covering up my gaps and my holes as I come back and forth. And just pay attention as you come across, and you'll see where you need to cover it. And then you'll see at one point that you got pretty much most of your pillows locked in and covered. I maybe want to get this part right here one more time. because that's open. I'll just purposely come across that. And you see me patting it because I want that loose plastic to come down and cover it. I'm just gonna come around. And this is essential. Pick a good spot to tear off your plastic to where it's flat. And you won't have it flapping. But now all I do is I pat that to the plastic, and this couch is wrapped. All my corners are covered that I know that may touch the wall, that may touch the ground. I have my front all the way to my bottom covered. Top of my cushions are covered and tight wrapped down. The middle is not always so much. Like right here, I have a little gap, but that's okay. I know not a lot of places is gonna touch, or a lot of area is gonna touch this space right here, but I have it primarily covered with most of my plastic. So just when you're wrapping, you wanna keep in mind what you're wrapping. You wanna keep in mind that you're wrapping it to protect it as you travel from location to location. And if you're putting it away for storage, you want to protect it from where it's going to be stored at. So like these couches on my corner right here, they're stored standing up on one edge. So that edge that's touching the ground, I definitely want to make sure I have that fully covered, and that my pads and cushions will stay in place when I turn it up. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but if you need to like take the cushions and lay them down as you wrap them so that they stay in place, that's a better option than maybe having a cushion fall out in the dirt as you're traveling from location to location. So just keep those things in mind as you're wrapping, and you should be just fine. Okay, so now we're back at a destaging, back from a destaging, and we're bringing over some end tables, or better known as nightstands. We want to bring them over to this area here, over about a yard. This is the second aisle. Come down this aisle, and we want to place those end tables here on this second row on top. And again, we're matching the end table with the other end table, and you stack those on top. Now the difference between these end tables and these end tables, or the coffee tables, is that we're not putting anything in between here to cover it. We're just placing that on top gently to ensure that we're not scratching the top, or like this pair here, we're placing them back to back. Again, we want to keep the pairs together because of inventory and because of placement, to ensure that they're where they're supposed to be when we go looking for them. So if we brought this one over, we want to find a matching one, put that back on top gently, placing it down on its pair, and going back to the truck to get more.